What if the ache of loneliness you carry isn't a flaw, but a strength the world simply isn't equipped to handle? If you've ever felt like an alien at a party, noticing the silent truths that hang in the air while everyone else engages in pleasant fiction, you understand a unique kind of suffering. It's the quiet burden of the deep thinker, a weight that doesn't announce itself but is felt with every breath. You're at a dinner party. The chatter is light, bouncing from the weather to celebrity gossip. People are smiling, nodding, playing their parts in a well-rehearsed social play. But then you dare to say something real. You offer a thought with substance, an observation that pierces the surface-level harmony they've built. The atmosphere shifts instantly. Your words hang in the air, unanswered. There are no laughs, no follow-up questions. Just an awkward shuffling in seats, a cleared throat, a quick, "So anyway." The moment passes, but the sting of that subtle rejection, that unspoken message that you are too much, lingers. It happens more than you'd like to admit. The psychologist Carl Jung had a profound understanding of this experience. He proposed that the further you travel into the landscape of your own mind, the more you risk becoming an outsider to the world. This isn't because you're broken, but because the world is built on a preference for comfortable illusions. It celebrates conformity, rewarding those who blend in, who smile without question, and who pretend they are fine when their inner world is in turmoil. Deep thinkers, however, cannot pretend. They are cursed with clarity. They see through the manufactured smiles, the hollow rituals, and the fragile systems people cling to. Jung once noted, the more intelligent and self-aware a person is, the more they suffer from the general unconsciousness of society. This isn't a pat on the back, it's a stark warning. In a culture that prizes superficiality, self-awareness is less of a superpower and more of a cross to bear. This curse begins in childhood. Deep-thinking children are often misunderstood. They are the ones asking the questions other kids don't think to ask. Why do adults tell white lies? Why are some rules so arbitrary? Why does love sometimes feel like a transaction? Instead of receiving genuine answers, they're told, stop overthinking it. Be more like the other kids. So they learn to suppress their inquiries, to keep their observations to themselves, but the questions don't disappear. They turn inward, becoming sharper and heavier with time. As adults, they have constructed vast, intricate worlds inside their minds, worlds brimming with unspoken truths, complex feelings, and profound insights. Yet the external world has no room for this depth. The workplace demands they follow a script. Relationships label them too intense. Social media tells them to just be positive. And so they hide. Not from a desire to be deceptive, but from the learned experience of what happens when they reveal their true selves. Carl Jung knew that society is terrified of what it cannot comprehend, and the mind of a deep thinker is a profound mystery to the masses. When you share a complex thought, you're accused of showing off. When you embrace silence, you're seen as judgmental. When you speak of trauma, you're dismissed as dramatic. When you ask probing questions, you're told you're overthinking. But you're not overthinking. You're thinking clearly. You are perceiving the details others miss and feeling the emotions others run from. This clarity makes people deeply uncomfortable, not because you are wrong, but precisely because you are right. You voice the truths they have spent a lifetime avoiding. You illuminate the shadows they've desperately tried to keep hidden. You remind them of a deeper dimension of life they have neglected, and that reminder is painful. This is why deep thinkers so often face resistance or are met with a cold distance. It is not an attack on who they are, but on what they represent. A mirror reflecting everything that has been suppressed. Jung identified this as the encounter with the shadow, and most people would rather shatter the mirror than face their own reflection. That mirror is you. Have you ever tried to warn someone, to offer a difficult truth to save them from a destructive pattern? And instead of gratitude, you were met with anger, silence, or were ghosted entirely. You weren't being negative, you were being real. But in our world, reality is a dangerous commodity. It doesn't sell products or entertain the masses. It makes people think, and thinking is hard work. As Jung said, many people don't actually think. They just rearrange their existing prejudices. They echo what they've been taught and perform the role they've been assigned. Deep thinkers, by contrast, question everything. They deconstruct, analyze, and rebuild. They lie awake at night, wrestling with life's contradictions. They don't crave approval. They crave understanding. In that pursuit, they often sacrifice the approval of those who live happily on the surface. That is the paradox of awareness. The more you awaken, the more isolated you feel. Not because you are lost, but because everyone else is still asleep, and still you try to connect. You dim your own light to make others feel comfortable. You water down your words to be less intimidating. You try your best to fit into a mold that was never meant for you. But it's a futile effort because your truth vibrates at a frequency that, once experienced, can never be faked. So, where do you go from here? How do you exist in a world that is afraid of the very essence of who you are? If you feel like you are too much for this world, you are not mistaken. You are not broken. You were simply born into a system that was never designed to accommodate your depth. Carl Jung termed it mass-mindedness, the tendency for people to absorb cultural narratives without ever questioning if those beliefs are true, right, or even their own. From birth, you are handed a script: what to value, how to succeed, what to fear. Be nice, follow the rules, compete, and conform. Follow the script, and the world will call you a success. But if you question that script, if you ask why, you become the problem. You're labeled too sensitive, too intense, too difficult. What you actually are is awake. And an awakened individual is a threat to a sleeping world. Think back to your time in school. Were you celebrated for your creativity and emotional intelligence? Or were you rewarded for memorizing facts, sitting still, and staying quiet? For most deep thinkers, the education system is the first institution that teaches them the suffocating pressure of conformity. It doesn't want thinkers. It wants followers. Followers are predictable, profitable, and they don't challenge the status quo. Jung saw this clearly. A system that discourages inner exploration is a system built on fear. This fear permeates our entire culture. It shapes how we date, where we value fleeting attraction over deep connection. It defines our work, where we prioritize productivity over purpose. It dictates how we live, in a constant state of rushing, scrolling, and chasing, never pausing to ask, is this what I truly want? Jung believed the soul cannot thrive at the speed of modern life. It requires silence, stillness, and the courage to face the shadows. When a deep thinker enters a room, their very presence can be disruptive. They carry a stillness that is not empty, but full. Their gaze doesn't just look, it sees. And for people who have spent their lives hiding from themselves, being truly seen is a terrifying experience. So they push the deep thinker away, not out of cruelty, but out of a primal instinct for self-preservation. This is why you are often labeled a loner. Not because you are antisocial, but because you operate on a frequency most people can't tune into. As Jung said, loneliness does not come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things which seem important to oneself. That line resonates because it's true. How many times have you held back from talking about meaning, purpose, or trauma, opting for small talk because you knew the other person couldn't handle it? That's not connection. It's a survival strategy. And this survival comes at a cost. You begin to internalize the world's judgment. You wonder, maybe I am the problem. Maybe I should just stop thinking so much, but please don't. The moment you abandon your depth is the moment you betray your own soul. Jung believed the world's greatest hope lies with the individuals who are brave enough to remain conscious in a largely unconscious society. You are that hope. Let's be clear, this path isn't easy, it's harder. You don't get the luxury of pretending. You feel everything, the exquisite beauty, the profound tragedy, the chaos, and the silence. In a world that screams at you to numb yourself, to scroll past the pain, to move on, simply feeling is an act of rebellion. So, rebel. If you often feel a soul-deep exhaustion, it's because you're doing the invisible work of emotional labor for a world that doesn't know how to do it for itself. You can sense the unspoken tension in a room. You hear the pain hidden behind someone's casual words. By the end of an interaction, they feel lighter while you feel emotionally drained. People come to you for support but vanish when you need it yourself. Jung called this unconscious vampirism. Deep thinkers are open canvases for others' projections. People offload their unresolved emotions onto you because you are empathetic and self-aware. The danger is that in constantly absorbing the emotional baggage of others, you begin to lose yourself. Your own needs become a distant whisper. And because you are the strong one, no one ever notices you're drowning. The world doesn't just ignore deep thinkers, it uses them. People are drawn to your depth but are too afraid to cultivate their own. So they extract it from you, your insight, your calm, your energy, and rarely give anything in return. When you finally set a boundary to protect yourself, you are called selfish. But your withdrawal isn't rejection, it's survival. You aren't being cold. You are recharging. Your vision will only become clear when you look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams? Who looks inside awakes, Jung wrote. You are awake, but the price of that awakening can be isolation, yet there is hope. Others like you exist, scattered across the globe, also watching, thinking, and waiting for a genuine connection. When two deep thinkers truly meet, the illusion shatters and the soul feels at home. So don't close yourself off. There will come a moment when you ask, is it all worth it? Jung would say this isn't a breakdown, but a breakthrough. It is the moment you decide whether to shrink to fit the world or expand into your truth, even if it means walking that path alone. Your calling is not to be understood by the masses, but to awaken the few. Perhaps your purpose is to be a mirror, reflecting the truths others are too afraid to see. This path may involve solitude, but solitude is not loneliness. Loneliness is feeling invisible. Solitude is the grace of finally seeing yourself. When you embrace this, you will stop chasing validation. You will realize you were never too much. You were just too real for a world that runs on make-believe. By honoring your depth, you become medicine. Not in a grand, heroic way, but in the quiet power of how you listen, how you hold space for others, and how you refuse to look away from the truth. Stay awake. Honor your gift. Stop apologizing for your mind. Slowly, the right people, the ones who also crave depth, who speak in metaphors, and who ask why, will find you. But they can only find you if you stop hiding. Let the world misunderstand you. Let them call you too intense. Smile and then go even deeper. This world needs your raw, unfiltered, courageous self. As Jung believed, true societal evolution begins with the transformation of the individual. That transformation is led not by the loudest or richest, but by the most conscious. That's you. Stop asking for permission to be who you are. Start valuing your own depth so fiercely that others must either rise to meet you or walk away. Both are a gift. Because being a deep thinker isn't about being liked, it's about being true. If this message made you feel seen, if these words touched that part of you that has always felt different, let's keep this conversation going. Like this so it can find others like us. Comment with one word that describes how you feel right now. I read every response. Subscribe to remain in a space where you never have to apologize for your depth. The world may not understand deep thinkers now, but we are the ones silently working to heal it.